I'm in James McCavoy's hotel room. He's just in the bathroom right now. I just said I was a fan of X-Men First Class. He said, come hang out with me. He won't let me leave.
It's podcasting time. Aloha, welcome to TheSalawag's Final Cut. So on this show, it is a movie review show, but it's the ultimate armchair critic review show, where at the end, I get to pretend that I'm a filmmaker who gets to make decisions about the movie. So what I first do is I'm going to do a little mini review about this movie, and then I will get into spoilers. And what I'll do first, before I get into how I would fix the movie, I'll celebrate the goods, and then I'll get into how I would change this movie. But there's a caveat. I can't just say I want 15 to 20 minutes of more movie. You know what I mean? Whatever I suggest, it has to be accomplished either with editing or within 2 days of shooting. So I'll get more to that later, but that's how this works. So here we go. I'm talking about Speak No Evil. First off, spoiler free. Did I like Speak No Evil? Well, if this is a show where you're supposed to make a movie better, how can you possibly have liked it? Well, actually, I did enjoy it. I do recommend it. I think it's a good time at the theaters. If you're just looking for a thriller to kind of keep you on your toes, it's not that complicated of a story. If you don't know about Speak No Evil, this was directed by James Watkins, starring James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, Scooter McNairy, and Eileen Franciosi. I hope I'm saying that right. And essentially, it's about two families that meet over a trip in Italy. And one of them, they're traveling for the first time. It's Mackenzie Davis and Scoot. And they're bringing their daughter, and they meet James McAvoy and his wife and their son. Their son? I'm already spoiling it. Anyway, what starts off as a very fun, casual meeting where two couples seem to get along splendidly, becomes an invite to James McAvoy's family land that's out in the middle of nowhere, where there's beautiful sights and a beautiful creek and a beautiful little lake and all that good stuff. I thought, on the whole, I enjoyed the picture. I felt very distinctly that this was very similar to Get Out. I really feel like, this movie, I have to say, if I'm comparing it to Get Out, I have to call it Get In. Because in Get Out, you literally have a character saying get out throughout the whole movie. And in this movie, it's literally this couple witnessing behaviors from James McAvoy in particular that are so off-putting and inappropriate. Even though he plays it with a charming little wink, it's so clearly not a joke. You know what I mean? That at the end of this, I'm like, this movie should have been called Get In. Like, we're obsessed with getting in, even though we know we shouldn't be here. It's the ultimate response to Get Out, which is saying, we're still gonna keep doing things we shouldn't do, Jordan Peele. I don't care how smart you are. You know what I mean? We're just going to be as stupidly emotional as possible so that we keep staying in a situation we shouldn't be in. I do really feel like, while I enjoyed the picture, and thematically, there is a reason this family will not part from the James McAvoy family. And it is an issue of sort of, I don't want to say subservience necessarily, but sort of the being too nice and sort of just being too willing to listen to someone else who clearly there's a brewing disagreement that's just, it's going to be there no matter what you do. But there's deeper reasons for this, and I'll get to that in the spoiler section. But yeah, I just felt that there's a clear moment in the second half of the movie where they do realize they need to get out of there, and they make steps toward doing that, and then all of a sudden, with very little, I consider, very little poking and prodding, all of a sudden the family's like, okay, we'll stay. And I was just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? You know, if you can break an egg and that thing fries on the ground, it's probably hot outside. If you know you need to leave and you decide to stay, you clearly want to be cooked in the oven, like the turkey that you are. Jive turkey. Is this why they came up with jive turkey? Is that still a bad word to say? Jive turkey? Because you know, stupid people who won't get out of clearly a bad situation. I don't really know. I don't know what that term means, but it's still in my head. Like groovy. Groovy's still in my head too. But anyway, yeah, so on the whole, spoiler-free, scenes to look forward to. Definite scenes to look forward to, or is everything actually with the kids? Because there's a whole through line where James McAvoy's son is, you know, it's two parents trying to get their kids to play with each other so that the adults can have adult conversations. All the scenes with the kids with each other, the son is trying to convey what's actually going on and try to convey to them how much they need to not be there. But he has no tongue. And James, it's explained in the movie that it's some kind of genetic disorder. But the son keeps trying to, he can't speak. And even when he writes, his writing is not able to be read by the daughter of Mackenzie Davis. So there's this whole building, escalating series of events where the son is trying to explain to the daughter what's going on, and it literally takes 3 times, but it's fine. It's a really good build-up. I really like those scenes, and I can't remember who the scene is with that scene. Even though it's in the trailer, is when you get to that moment, it feels earned. It feels so scary. And I would say, let's see. So all of that, it just because it's part of the creepiness, and I just like I like when characters are discovering things. I think those are kind of the most interesting parts of movies, when characters are kind of discovering something or getting hints about something, and you're kind of wondering what it's actually all going to lead to. The reveal in particular, I thought was a cool scene, followed by some redundant moments. But absolutely, when the confrontation begins, the first confrontation between the parents, I thought that was a really cool sequence. Once you get past that, that's where I want to change things. But the initial, actual physical confrontation between the parents, which I'll describe in the spoiler section, I think that moment was so good, so worth getting to. James McAvoy being scary in the house, so worth getting to in this movie. Even though, again, I think it takes some leaps in logic. But all that being said, I think things to look forward to. The boy trying to reveal what's going on, the first confrontation between parents, and just James McAvoy being scary in the house. All 3 of those things are why I'm saying I do recommend this movie, and I do think you should make up your own mind. Don't just go thinking, oh, well, Matt said it was great, so it's got to be great. No, I said Tusk was great, and nobody fucking wants to watch anything I suggest anymore. But, you know, I think Speak No Evil, for regular audiences, definitely much more palatable. So that's all I can really say, spoiler-free. I do recommend this movie. Thumbs up. A single aloha, meaning good time. Good enough filmmaking for me to give it that single aloha. And then, yeah, let's get into the spoiler-free. Let's get into the spoilers.
If this this is my last movie review. I thought Speak No Evil was okay. Yeah, it was just okay. I'm afraid he's going to cut out my tongue. I don't know why. But really, Speak No Evil was just okay. Mccavoy was amazing. Just amazing. It was almost worth coming up and hanging out with him. Not letting him let me leave. He kept giving me options. He kept leaving the door open. But I just kept staying. Out of niceness. But James Mccavoy won't let me leave. Because I wouldn't let him let me leave. Because I just didn't want to hurt Professor X's feelings. Seriously, X-Men Days of Future Past, he was amazing. Just amazing. I can't believe he was amazing. I thought he was great. And Split. Oh my God, Split. Oh my God, so amazing. But now he won't let me leave. If it's the last review I ever have, just know. Yeah, Speak to Evil, just not bad. Kind of like The Shining, but not. Definitely like The Shining, but not like The Shining. He's coming back. I hear him flushing. Speak No Evil was just okay. It's not bad. I love my girl from Station 11. Fantastic. She was always amazing. Just know. What the hell? If someone acts that creepy, get the fuck out of that fucking house. James McAvoy's coming. Goodbye. Goodbye. Speak to Evil was okay. See you there. Decide for yourself. But just know James McAvoy has me in his apartment. I'm in his hotel. I don't know. He keeps telling me he's a doctor. And then he's a professor. I love you, car. I love you, my car. Bye, car. You were the greatest car. Except my roommate's car is pretty sweet, too. I'm so sorry, car.
Spoilers. Let's celebrate the goods. Okay, so right up front, Mackenzie Davis and James McAvoy. This is all about these two and their acting chops. Because really, when we're looking at this movie analytically, now remember, this is a spoiler section, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, what are you doing here? This is for people who've seen the movie, so you know what I'm talking about. But essentially, what we have right up front, right? We got this couple, and it's revealed across the movie. They moved to London because of Scott McNairy's situation. He had a job and he lost a job. He wanted to move to London. What we have going on is a sort of as far as the relationship goes, we've got this couple that's where the wife is doing everything she can to support the husband, but she's not happy, and she's not voicing her disagreement. She's not voicing any disagreement at all. But that's part of her unhappiness. And so when these guys have conflict across the movie because they just keep agreeing to do everything that James McAvoy says, which is part of the theme of the movie, that you realize that problem really starts with the two of them as a couple. That's the problem that they both have as people. They're just a little bit too dodo-y, a little bit too willing to just do whatever gets them the pat on the head, go about their life. Oh, you like me? Oh, that gives me joy. Pat on the head. They're just a little bit too willing to make others happy, and they're not willing to stand up for themselves. There's a movie I love by Steven Spielberg. It's his first movie. It's called Duel. It's exactly about that, where you're introduced to a man he's driving across the state for something work related, and he stops to call his wife, and his wife, you don't see the wife's side of the conversation, but you can tell from his side that she's angry at him for not defending her in a particular situation, and she's basically calling him spineless, and you know, the theme being he does not stick up for himself, and so he cuts off this huge semi truck, this oil tanker, and what makes the movie go on is that the oil tanker starts chasing him down. He never sees the driver, but he just is spending the entire movie driving away in terror. And it takes to the very end of the movie for him to actually stand up and face the truck head on and face his problem head on. And I won't tell you how it ends, but essentially that's thematically, this movie shares that, where you got this couple who has this inability to really speak their minds, or at the very least on Mackenzie Davis's side, she just won't stick up to the husband and say, hey, I don't want to do this, I'd rather do something else. And even when she does, he kind of, you know, I don't know, I think we should just do whatever they say, you know. He's just kind of, his weaselly weakness really empowers her weaselly weakness, and they both just kind of have a cycle of just being too much of that kind of person, too much of a doormat type of person. And believe me, my name is Matt, and I understand being a doormat for other people. But, you know, eventually you gotta grow up. And essentially, my problems with the ending of the movie, I feel like they don't grow up enough. I think it's kind of there, but it's not really there enough. But to celebrate the goods, I like that this is the theme of the movie, because when it just keeps getting weirder and weirder, James McAvoy checking out Mackenzie Davis, feeding her meat after knowing she's a vegetarian, and her just accepting it. You know what I mean? And it's just that you just see, and I like I said, I have a problem with myself. I have a friend who has this problem too, and it's a constant, not a constant, but it's something that frequently comes up where, because I know for myself, if I truly don't want to do something, I'm going to say no. If I truly find something inappropriate, I will call you out. And this friend still kind of has this problem. And so it is something that we talk about from time to time. And it's something that a mutual friend that we used to have had this problem way bigger, but it was they had it in such a way where it just turned around and they found some way to become manipulative and dark with it. And it was just like, you kind of see that I've seen the whole range of where this problem can go. And in essence, James McAvoy's wife, she's that. You know, when we get to the reveal that their son, hey, and this is spoilers, you're still watching, stop, go watch the movie, come back. When we find out that the son is not their son, he's showing them the photographs. I love that scene. I thought, what a great visual way to explain it without using words, when the son is showing the pictures of James McAvoy and his wife with other couples on trips, and you slowly realize, wait a minute, there's a different boy with them in some of the older photos, and then there's a young kid that's clearly this kid with a different couple, and then the daughter realizes, oh, those are your parents. And he's like, you know, and it's like, oh no, you know what I mean? It's such a, I really love that scene. I think that, you know, speak no evil. There's kind of like, it's kind of like that phrase, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But this is the Mackenzie Davis and Scooter or Scott McNairy. Their problem is just the super extension of that, which is like, you literally won't have any disagreement. You're being too agreeable for the sake of some imaginary peace with someone else. But you have no requirement to be subservient to this other couple. That's why this is ultimately, you know, what's your real problem here, that you can't speak up for yourself? And it's not an evil thing to say no. You know, so I think there's a conversation to be had about this movie, that it's really about speaking up and saying your voice. And when you look at Hollywood, over and over again, you hear that, you know, people who are conservative have to keep their mouths shut because apparently and it's really just too bad that they feel that way. See, because I want to work in Hollywood, so I don't want to say anything bad about see, so I can't say anything, right? Because I want to break in, I want to make movies too. And the last thing I want to say is that I would totally vote for see, and hopefully I've protected my career by not saying any of these things. But like I said, you know, that's a stupid, that's kind of almost too much worth cutting out. But look, like, we have all these situations in society where people feel like they should not speak up and speak their own minds because it might damage their careers, it might get them in trouble at work, it might get them in trouble in a relationship. That's definitely been the case for myself, where I've been in relationships and friendships where I thought I just have to keep doing what this other person wants me to do because, and exactly like this couple, there was always a sob story. So with me, I think, not that I'm always good at it, but I more often than not will voice if I have a problem with something, because that's how my parents were. You know, it's like, you know, some of their fights start because they are just verbally saying, hey, what you're doing doesn't make me comfortable. Yeah, well, what you're doing doesn't make me comfortable. And sometimes it's just really stupid fights, but, you know, but that's the stock I'm coming from, where if they're at work and someone's doing something wrong and they're really screwing something up, they'll say something. And it's not like they're just whiners. Like, my mom is decorated in her particular career. She has, you know, she has the awards to back up that she does the right thing when it needs to be done. But being that kind of person means that you're that person all the time. It's like Captain America and the Avengers and the MCU. He's always that person who's going to stand up and say, hey, that's not right. But we have this opposite end where so many people will not voice themselves. And I had this situation at work when I worked at a popular retail store where everyone I was working with was Black, Latin, or Asian. And it was a Latin and Black kid, youngsters. They were the youngest one. They were roughhousing. They were throwing the N-word around. And I was the only one telling them to stop. Granted, although I wasn't a manager, I was in a bit more of a position of power than everyone else was. But it just really shocked me that all these people, Latin, Black, Asian, all these people who were clearly offended by what these two kids were doing, especially when they threw around curse words or the N-word, but none of them would say anything. You know, none of them would speak up. And these are kids. They're younger than all of you, but no one would say anything. I'm just watching their faces be uncomfortable. And I had already been in a similar situation with a different set of coworkers. And in that particular case, I was the one who was expected to do something. You know what I mean? But in this case, I ended up having to call these two coworkers aside and afterward and say, look, I'm in charge of this area that we all work in, and my job depends on maintaining good relationships with people, and I can't do that if you guys behave like this and talk like this. And well, without disrespecting them, I completely acknowledge that, hey, you guys are hard workers, everyone sees that you work hard, but if you act like this again, then we're going to have this conversation again. And that made them stop and respect me. And every time they acted out, we would have an awkward kind of look, and they would kind of calm down. You know what I mean? So I earned their respect by voicing. But so many people, like if I'm one guy, and this is 15 people, right? That means 13 people did nothing. 13 people who were the color of offense, right? I mean, I'm a mixed person, but no one sees that. No one cares if I open my voice about race. They think I'm nothing. But I'm the guy who's, if I said it, that would be a racial issue, right? But since they're saying it, they're getting this kind of social glaze, this social kind of pass, even though everyone's clearly uncomfortable with it. But I was the one who had to step up and say something. So it's just something to think about. That I think Speak No Evil is completely relevant across races, religions, and everything because of this exact issue, where here's two white couples, but one couple's making the other couple deeply uncomfortable for 2 hours straight, which in movie time is 3 days, at least. And so, and to me, when we get to the scene where the daughter's in bed with the James McAvoy couple, and they're both in their underwear, and it's so awkward, and you don't know what happened. I don't even understand. I know they set up the little bunny, right? Or she has the little stuffed animal that keeps the daughter happy. They set up the importance of that, and it's clear to me that the James McAvoy couple stole it every single time that it was missing, but not to them. Why is it not clear to them the second and third time? I don't know. But it's that time when they find her in bed, it's just, and then all of a sudden, where's my stuffy? That is a moment where the dad or Mackenzie Davis should have been like, we just have to go without it. And so when they turn around, I'm just like, get out of here, man. Get out of here. You know what I mean? Like this, you know that you're putting your child in danger, and you're going back there. And at that point, I lost respect for the couple, and I kind of didn't care if they survived or not. You know what I mean? But to that end, when they come back and James McAvoy is acting all hurt and emotional, gaslighting, and then it's because they very cleverly had it be his wife that was coddling the daughter, and it's seemed like maybe it was a sleep issue, but then they had the sad story of losing a daughter themselves, and I was like, bullshit, man, bullshit. You know what I mean? Bullshit. If you ran into the daughter in the middle of the night because she was crying and sobbing, you would bring her naturally to her parents. You wouldn't take her yourself. Bullshit. And the fact that the couple, that Mackenzie Davis and Scott McNary, damn it, I'm sorry. I just read your name 3 times, and it's not. You're a great actor. I've seen you in stuff before. I know who you are. Anyway, but the fact that they just fall for it again, it's almost like they want to fall for it. They want for everything to be okay so badly that even though they know it's not, they keep going. And I think this isn't kind of an important thing to think about. I think a lot of audience members will see this and wave their eyes over it. But having been through what I've been through in my own life, many different scenarios, not just what I'm talking about at work, but I've been through this so many different times, and I've been the Mackenzie Davis couple with other friendships where it was like, I got to the point of saying very verbally and clearly, what you're doing is making me uncomfortable. It's making me feel unable to be around you. And the other person would just always have ready to deliver a sob story, so convincing. And obviously, I don't want the friendship to end. That's why I'm communicating. But this person has a sob story that's going to keep me, being led on for a little bit longer. Always a sob story. Always pity me, woe is me. I'm the lowest swinging thing on the pendulum. I am so low. Oh no. You know what I mean? To give that false sense of your superiority in the situation. Because in their minds it's some kind of power dynamic. In your mind, it's just about respect. It's just basic respect. And the fact of the matter is that even in this situation, they couldn't just say, hey, we found our daughter in your bed, and that was really wrong. You know what I mean? And they still had to say it in a kind of a nice way, because James McAvoy just seems so distraught. What's going on? I don't know. You know what I mean? Even though we saw, prior to this scene, Mackenzie Davis and her husband were having a fight, based on dialogue from the previous scene. We saw James McAvoy was looking through the glass window of the door. He was listening to the whole thing, and he clearly went up into the kid's room. So it's just very, you know what I mean? As the audience, of course, you're being led into something. But I say, even if you're not, if you're that couple, and you're willing to be suckered like this, you kind of just deserve whatever happens to you. And I think that's the beautiful point when we get to my favorite scene, being the first physical confrontation, where James McAvoy has the shotgun, or he has a gun. I can't remember exactly how it rolled out. And then Mackenzie Davis had the box cutter, and she just fucking, guerrilla attacks in the right way at the right moment, saves the entire family and gets them out of there. I thought that was awesome. That was awesome. You know what I mean? To me, the whole movie built up to this. My problem with this ending is that when we get to the final confrontations, and the cook from earlier shows up, and then they're hiding in the house, and they still break into the house, and then we get to the rooftop scene, and the wife, James McAvoy's wife, falls over. And that's horrible. But then the husband, Mackenzie Davis's husband, decides to fall off the roof on purpose to get the ladder. Just go back inside. You only got two guys. You killed one of them. Very clearly killed one of them. And you wounded the other. And then killed the wife. At this point, just take on James McAvoy. Okay? You know he's all messed up. Go through the house. I felt like this ending to me was very weak. It was trying to be The Shining. It took me until the ending to realize, I saw it in the trailer, but it took me to the end to realize that this particular bathroom that Mackenzie Davis hides in, or a particular room, it's designed to look exactly like the creepy room with the ghost lady from The Shining that the little boy goes into in room 237. It's very clearly a throwback to that. You look at the painting, the design, this is The Shining. And then we got the busting through of the door, which instead of using an axe, it's just James McAvoy's sheer strength, because he's clearly beefy. So he's a beefy, strong guy. He's going to kill everybody. But it's very clear that when he's busting through the door, this is a here's Johnny moment. So these are all very subtle hints at The Shining. And when we're on the roof and there's the ladder, it's very much the same as the ending of The Shining. But in the ending of The Shining, it was just the mom and the boy. Now we've got 4 people and a long ladder. I'm like, I'm sorry. No. You know what I mean? Either wait for James McAvoy to come out and throw him down, or go in the house and just take him on. There's 2 of you now. You can do it. I just really just did not buy that for 1 second. And I also felt like, because you use the ladder and you have James McAvoy walking around outside exactly like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, and then the kids are for some reason nowhere near the parents after they all climb down the ladder, only so that James McAvoy can have them at gunpoint so that they can use the syringe he was going to use earlier. It just feels too writery. It feels too contrived. And it goes away from what is this movie about? What is this movie about? Because I get very tired of these movies that are like, oh, well, we set up this little thing so that little thing, when in this right scenario, no, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And for me, it really did not work. I really felt like this movie needed to be about these parents voicing and acting out of their concern over what's been happening across this movie. And the fact that that's not what happened, and we just got a very basic final confrontation with James McAvoy, where ultimately the daughter saved herself, and I'm like, I'm always for, the person who's most vulnerable saving the day or getting themselves out of a situation. But I just felt like thematically this movie fell apart with the way they decided to end this movie, because they wanted both the Shining ending and they wanted a syringe to be the solution. And I get it, you want to push it so that the little boy can kill James McAvoy, but I really feel like you could have gotten that any which number of ways. And most importantly, just again, if the entire movie is about being inside of this house, if the entire movie is about pushing us inside of this house, if thematically the entire movie is about this couple who will not voice their concerns even with each other, then this finale needs to be about being inside the house and about the couple finally letting out. And they already have the yelling scene where James McAvoy and Scott McNairy are screaming their lungs out just to get out the stress that they've been holding on to. But that's not really the stress about this film. That's backstory stress. We need the stress of this movie to be expressed. So I really felt like they should have all gone right back, gotten off the roof, back inside the house, and just have that quiet tension of where's James McAvoy? How are we going to run into him? And then have them find him. They should run into each other. Find him, run into each other, have a very tight, close quarters physical battle. Really duke it out. And again, Mackenzie Davis being our hero should really be about her getting to say everything she has to say to this man. Just say, I find you with my daughter in your bed. You've done all this stuff. You did all this stuff to me. Voice what's inside of her chest. You know what I mean? Because that's what the movie is thematically about. So when that doesn't happen and we get the Hollywood, the drug does the thing for me, I'm out of it. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? This is a movie thing. You're ending with a movie thing when you have this very good actual cinema going on. With Get Out, everything makes sense. The minute Rose is no longer his girlfriend, you don't need any more conversation. You know what I mean? The words Get Out have already been said. But with this couple, they will not verbalize their pain. So that final confrontation needed to be a little bit of a yelling match. It needed to be a little bit of everyone getting off their chest what they've been holding in the whole movie. You know what I mean? And literally the anger and the discomfort of what they've experienced. That to me is what the finale should have been. So with that in mind, the ultimate armchair critic moments. So with that in mind, here's what I would do. Remember, I can't just ask for 15 minutes of movie. Whatever I want has to be solved with editing, or it has to be done with 2 days of shooting. I imagine the scenario like this. The movie studio or the director comes to me with the movie in its finished form as we see it in theaters and tell me, hey, we've got 2 weeks till this thing comes out. Something's off about the movie. I just don't know what. What would you do to fix this if we had 2 days to shoot? and 1 week to edit to fix this movie. Here's what I would say. I would say all the stuff I just said. But I would say, okay, before these 2 days, what we need is we need to change this final confrontation. I love the final moment of the boy killing James McAvoy and having that great end scene where they're driving away. That's what saves the movie for me. When they're driving away, Mackenzie Davis, her husband, the daughter, and the boy, I love that final scene because you get all the hints with James McAvoy that he is a product of his violent father raising him. And we have this whole movie thinking he's the father of this boy, and we know that he's experienced a lot of awful things. So when the boy is the one who kills James McAvoy, I do think that's appropriate. I think that's totally the correct way to go. And when we're in the final scene driving in the car and the movie ends on him, he gets the stuffed animal from the girl, meaning she realizes she doesn't need it anymore and now he needs it, communicating that there's a chance he could be okay. But just the fact that he did that and he still has this haunted look on his face, I think that's a fantastic ending. That's a fantastic ending. But I just don't agree with the final confrontation. I think we just have too much build-up with these two characters. So what I would do, final 2 days, this has got to be a huge action sequence. It's going to be at least maybe less than a half day. We get one shot. The family decides to climb back into the house. They're not going to try to climb down the ladder. That's done. Okay, that's done. Get out of here. The husband could have just as well have died from falling. So that was just not a good idea. But also I felt like just the fact that he's willing to do it shows that he has not grown. He has not grown to the point where he will face his problem head on. So that's my problem with that. I don't see it as smart at all. I think you've killed everybody else. You've killed everybody else. Come on. You and your wife can handle James McAvoy. He's covered in acid. Come on. So have them all come back in and shoot it as a creepy scene where they're now walking around in a dark house and it's just too quiet. And it's just when they get down to the kitchen where the drama started. That's where James McAvoy tries to surprise them with the shotgun. Mackenzie Davis knocks it out of the way, and the husband joins in too, and we get a literal three-way fight with the two of them trying to get James McAvoy. And James McAvoy, maybe he's so strong and tough, he is kind of knocking them back, but they get the gun away from him. So we get a moment where maybe the daughter gets a little stab in, and something like that, where she tries to defend them. But it should really get to a point where in the middle of this fight, we need dialogue. We need dialogue of at least Mackenzie Davis screaming at James McAvoy, "What have you done to me? What have you done to my family?" And maybe the husband should have died. I do feel like there should have been a greater consequence than just the kind of sprained leg. It's supposed to be broken, I guess, but it's really, he's walking on it, so it's just sprained. I think really James McAvoy should have, at the very least, given the husband a real beating. And it should have been Mackenzie Davis who turns it back around and, I don't know, drops the fridge on him or something, hurts James McAvoy in such a way he can't move anymore. Maybe she gets the shotgun and gets him in the back. I don't exactly know how the fight should go. That could be figured out with the actors and with the stunt crew. And I've worked with a stuntman for years, so I know that a fight scene could be worked out in a day with the correct amount of shooting. If we had 2 days to do it, that's 1 day to really rehearse and get a couple shots in, and the second day is basically the confrontation. And I would just shoot it like that. In my short, I only need one. We have 2 major action sequences, both of them shot in a single day in less than 6 hours. Now those 2 scenes were only with 2 people. And again, with the right choreographer, it can be done. You can absolutely do this. We just need enough physical gags and enough movements And, it can be tight, it can be intimate. We don't have to have dramatic, huge falls constantly, just a few really good ones. Stuff that can be done by the actors, preferably, something not too dangerous. But you just make it look dangerous, you make it look intense. But most importantly, the most important thing is that they subdue James McAvoy. And even if you want to do the drug, maybe that's where it comes in. But it's got to be Mackenzie Davis who subdues him for good. And she's got to voice everything she wants. And I mean everything. She got to tell her husband, I'm sick of London. I miss America. I want to move back. And you fucking creep. She just got to unload. Because that's what this movie is carrying around as baggage. That's just, without it, it does feel a bit like a deflated balloon. It really, I think, if you're going to have them turn back around for that stuffed animal, then we need her to express herself verbally. Because that's what this whole movie's about. And I love, again, the first confrontation scene, when they're giving him all the money, they're giving James McAvoy all the money. Why are you doing this to us? Because you let us. That, to me, it needs a response of, I'm not letting you do this to me anymore. You know what I mean? That, to me, that is what our 2 days of shooting is really about. We get some good action choreography that's not James Bond level action. These are regular people, so they fight in a regular kind of awkward way. But the most important thing is that it's intense, and that it's Mackenzie Davis who subdues James McAvoy and lets out everything in her chest. And then maybe the husband, what he gets is to apologize. Something. But most importantly, Mackenzie Davis, she is the main one who's victimized throughout this movie, with all of James McAvoy's little looks and gestures and the meat and the kissing on the neck. All these things. And she should also get out to her husband. How could you not have defended me? How could you not have done something, anything, when he was doing these things? Literally have that sense of that this relationship is probably, even if they survive it, this relationship's probably over. What she says to James McAvoy and his wife when they're about to get out for the last time, to me, that does not qualify. She's just, it feels more like she's saying these things to get out of the conversation. But it's not really her, even what she's saying, it's more about the husband. It's not about what James McAvoy's done. Because at the root of this, at the root of our theme for this picture, the issue is the lack of ability to speak up for oneself. So the only proper resolution to this movie that can make it a truly strong cinematic picture is that she needs to verbalize that pain. At the same time as the fight, it's all the same thing. Because she wouldn't resist him when he was kissing her neck. There is a little bit of personal responsibility there, that she showed no resistance of any kind. You know what I mean? And the resolution is not just the boy killing James McAvoy. It's Mackenzie speaking her mind. And to me, it's without that, it's a cheap Hollywood ending. A great final scene, but a cheap Hollywood final confrontation. We just needed something much tighter inside that house, because that's where everything built up to. The minute you're outside the house, the stress is over. You've already got us locking them in. So the minute they're outside of the house and you have that final confrontation with James McAvoy, it doesn't hold as much water because you already feel like they're out. So I really feel like, I understand The Shining being a huge reference point, but, you got to tell your story. The story's got to come first, and that's what I feel like this movie needed. So that's what I would do if I had 2 days to shoot. That's how I would change the ending. Other than that, I like the final scenes. I do think that, the boy killing James McAvoy makes sense to me, especially because of the implications hinted at earlier in the movie. I think all of that worked. It's just the couple stuff. You know, the minute that car turns around, if there's no screaming match, there's no final confrontation. And it just feels deflated in Hollywood. So that's all I got to say. Again, I did like this movie. I still think people should check it out. And again, I know a lot of people will feel like, oh man, that doesn't make sense. Why would the couple go back? I'm kind of done. But again, going back to my own personal life experiences, we're all armchair critics in our life. You know, every single one of us makes a choice that we wish we'd made a different one. And then we look back and go, I should have done that. And then we look at other people making choices and go, you should have done that. And it's very easy. That's why they say hindsight's 20/20. But I think the reason that this movie's worth talking about is because of this theme. And I just want it to be properly expressed when we hit the ending. But other than that, I think this theme is powerful enough that it does speak across ethnicities and all that, everything, nationalities. There's so many people out there. Like I said, with my work situation, you know, I'm not black, but I don't want the N-word being thrown around. But here we're black people, you know, and Latin people who were clearly so offended they wouldn't stand up to a fellow black or Latin person. And I just can't help but wonder why. Why do you want somebody else to solve your problems for you when most of the time you can do it yourself? But I had to do it, right? I had to step in. I was as close as it got to a leader in that particular situation, but I was not the leader of that group. They had their own leader who was not present. You know, that the leader was not present, so I had to ultimately take over the situation. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean that any one of them who were involved with the situation before I was even aware of it, any one of them could have said something and done something and spoken up for themselves. And it just goes to speak. It speaks to how far a lot of us are in this world, that we all have this issue. There's something we're not doing something about. And we need to step up and voice what our concern is. And not be afraid of what other people think. And not worry about, you know, oh, I'm afraid of confrontation. Well, so what? Everyone's afraid of confrontation. Everybody. Those two guys didn't want to deal with me. But they did. But I also treated them with respect. And that's the number one thing. I think some people have issues with confrontation, maybe because they're worried they will get too emotional and not do it right. But the truth is, you can be completely respectful and disagree with someone. It's just that's how you have to approach it, respecting the other person, even if they're disrespecting you. And this is something that I've learned across my life, that there's a way to disagree with people in a respectful way where you don't lose your integrity, but you still do the right thing. And that's where it's got to start. So anyway, that's what I got to talk about today. Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Salawag's Final Cut. I got more episodes to come. We're just starting out with this because, well, I saw the movie and it's new, so it's got to go first. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time on the TheSalawag's Final Cut. Oh yeah.